Okay. All right,
Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Mr. Badger, Mr. Bleefeld,
I'm here.
Ms. Giavachi,
Here.
Mr. Golson,
Here.
Ms. Kirianikis,
Here.
Dr. Morris, Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mrs. Ginsburg, here, Mia Bananese,
Here.
Harrison Ernst.
Here.
Great, thank you. All right, will everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I want to welcome everyone to this May 5th meeting of the Wissahickon School Board. If you take a look at our agenda, we first list out our prior meetings. On April 7th, the board met for a regular public board meeting, and on April 21st for Health, Wellness, and Safety and the REACT Committee meeting. And then we list out our upcoming meetings on May 5th, which is today. We list out today's meeting is upcoming. Regular public board meeting. May 12th, Finance. May 27th is our next work session. And then June 2nd will be our next regular public board meeting. All right, and then this evening we have a presentation. So first, National Merit Scholars.
Thank you. Tonight is one of my favorite board meetings of the year. We've had tonight a tradition that started about 10 years ago when I first got here, actually. And this is something that enables students who have benefited so much from so many people in the district an opportunity to give back a little bit. And to that end, it's a pleasure to introduce Ms. Brooke Stout, who is our college and career school counselor at the high school. Hello, Ms. Stout, and the podium's yours.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I am joined by 11 Wissahickon High School seniors who are some of the standouts of our class of 2025. These 11 students have been named finalists in the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program, which is a nationally recognized scholarship competition focused on academic achievement and dedication to extracurricular activities. To be selected, students must score in the top 1% of testers in their state on the PSAT in the fall of their junior year. From there, students submit a comprehensive application as well as an essay. Tonight, we take the time to highlight each of our National Merit finalists, but this is also an opportunity for these accomplished students to recognize a teacher who has impacted their Wissahickon journey. Each student will present a book of their choosing to their selected teacher with a brief note of thanks. Congratulations to all the students and educators being recognized tonight. Students and teachers, please come to the podium as I call your name. First, we have Jackson Angel, who will be attending Marist University and is recognizing Jeff Slanina.
I'm gonna give you Ready Player One. I was given this book as a present from someone who knew I'd appreciate it. For me, it's a story about fighting to keep our fun-loving spirit. And in a world where there's pressure from all sides to grow up as quickly as possible, I know your daughters will be immeasurably fortunate to have a father who seems never to have felt that pressure himself. Thank you for 3 years of jokes, boundless energy, and pure dedication. I can only hope to, sometime in the next 4 years, to meet an educator with half your passion and fun-loving spirit, but I seriously doubt it.
Thank you.
Mucho español. Sí.
All right, next we have Catherine Chen, who will be attending Villanova University and is recognizing Elizabeth Colonna.
I first had you in ninth grade, which was 3 years ago by now, and I've had a lot of teachers since then. But you've always stood out to me in my mind just because of your genuine passion for teaching and your care for your students and always going above what was expected of you as an educator. So because of that, I'm giving you the Giving Tree, which I've heard recently is a little controversial in his message, but
I didn't hear that.
I think really giving your all to your students and not expecting.
Next is Kevin Gao, who'll be attending Georgia Tech and is recognizing Carolyn Popovich.
It's been a wonderful 3 years of German with you, and it was a certainly unexpected bright addition to my high school career. I really loved it. If I had to take my high school year 100 more times, I'd take AP German. For all the fun moments and for all the humor, I present to you the comprehensive anthology of German humor. It is entirely blank, so you can record your phrase.
Our next student is Connor Ganane, who'll be attending Stanford University and is recognizing Kirk McMinn.
Thank you, Mr. Mackman, for being an amazing teacher and mentor. Your guidance led me to a full tuition scholarship at the University of Alabama that I turned down to go to Stanford. You encouraged me to apply and attend the Aim High Flight Academy program, where I had the best time ever flying planes for free on the government's dollar. You also helped me become a National Merit finalist, so clearly your interesting teaching style is working. In fact, you're the only teacher I know to scroll through the test answers while they're taking the test on the smartphone. You're also the only teacher I know to teach your kids 5 times how to convert Celsius. You are also the only teacher I know to teach the AP Physics 2 content one day before these students learn it one day. Okay, that's true, right? In honor of the genius plan to have you teach AP Physics 2 this year without any prep, I'm gifting you this book, 5 Steps to a 5 AP Physics 2. Hopefully, you can use it to catch up on your studies and get ready for your class next year. Overall, you've made a huge impact on my life, from giving me the Mr. Bama name to spamming AP Classroom to get me a 5 on the AP Physics 1 exam. Thank you for it all.
Our next student is Vivian Hahn, who'll be attending the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and is recognizing Nicole Stoneback.
Hi, Mrs. Stoneback. It's been so long since we've been able to talk to each other, but I just want to give you a warm thank you. It truly meant the world to have such an engaging and thoughtful teacher in my younger years, like 6th grade, who I could look up to, crack jokes to, and just ask questions about life in general. And every step of the way, you were always there to encourage my curiosity and open my eyes, which is why I give you this book, which is The Phantom Toll Booth, which talks about a little kid, Milo, and his phantom toll booth that lets him explore the world. So likewise, I think you opened up my eyes to the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next student is Kate Hussa, who'll be attending Washington University in St. Louis and is recognizing Meredith Balatek.
I wanted to thank Ms. Valatek for being such a great teacher these past 2 years. I haven't taken the easiest classes with her, but she's made the content fun enough and interesting enough that I wanted to continue it in college. I chose to give her a short history of nearly everything by Bill Bryson because he takes some very complicated topics and just makes them a lot more fun and more interesting to his readers. Thank you so much.
Our next student is Chloe Michaels, who's attending Rochester Institute of Technology and is recognizing Leanne Marchese.
Ms. Marchese, as I'm pursuing film production and I'm an artist, I decided that in combination combination with your passion for the Flyers, a book of history for the Flyers, supplemented by imagery would be a effective representation of my appreciation for you. In 5th grade at Shady Grove, when I had you, not only were you dedicated, strong-willed, and perceptive, but you also completely transformed the rest of my educational endeavors by spotting a spark in me and recommending me for getting placed into the gifted program. So I thank you. I'm a changed and improved adolescent due to your extensive efforts, so I graciously thank you for the impact you've made on my life and livelihood.
Our next student, Rachel Park, is attending the University of Maryland and is recognizing Michael Moriello.
Even 7 years ago, or 7 years now, my greatest memory of you is when you do a cartwheel and you almost knock the projector off the smartboard. But as I get ready to graduate and begin my journey studying neuroscience at the University of Maryland, I still thought of you and I wanted to give you this book, When Breath Becomes Air. It's a powerful reflection on purpose, identity, and the intersection between science and the human spirit. Reading Dr. Calathini's story reminded me why I fell in love with learning in the medical field in the first place, to understand not just how things work, but what gives life meaning. Your class was one of the first places where I felt that spark, and I'll always be grateful for the foundation you helped build. Our next student is Parth Patel. He'll be attending Penn State University and is recognizing Daniel Meyer.
So, Mr. Meyer, I wanted to recognize you for all the amazing time we spent together just 7 years ago. 5th grade was one of my most memorable and fun years, and just the way you conducted your class added to it. From the friendly competitions at the end of the week to the mini basketball hoop set that you set up in the side of your room, you ensured that every day was exciting. And so I chose this book, Atomic Habits, because of your training in Spartan racing and your motivational Mondays. Thank you. That dad joke.
Our next student, Sharia Sinha, is attending the University of Michigan and is recognizing Christopher McDaniels.
Mr. McDaniels. Fantastic. I want to recognize Christopher McDaniels, Mr. McDaniels, for giving me a fantastic 2 years in 9th and 10th grade for gifted history, where I thought the environment was amazing and kids could speak their mind. And no matter how stupid, like what they wanted to say was, you could always raise your hand and say something stupid and Mr. McDaniels would make fun of you. But it was a growing and learning experience, and I really enjoyed it and value it. So I want to give him The Life of a Useless Man by Maxim Gorky. And no matter how useless I felt sometimes, I could always redeem myself by saying something smart after saying something stupid. So thank you, Mr. McDaniels.
And our final student this evening is Jake Tan, who is attending Case Western Reserve University and is recognizing Lisa Woodland Smith.
Dr. Woodland Smith's AP Comp class was the first math class I've taken in a long time, like entirely novel concepts, thanks to, I'll say, a fair bit of math counts in middle school. So I just want to thank you so much for pushing me to be a better student and change the very way of you learning. For that, I've given her math girls.
Thank you, and congratulations again to our students and our teachers.
Thank you so much. This is, again, I agree with Jim. This is like one of my favorite presentations every year. We love having the students come in and recognize one of their teachers that made a real impact on their life. So that's so wonderful. And to see like new teachers every single year, it's great to see so many of our teachers make an impact on our students. So thank you to all of our WIS teachers, and thank you to our students for coming this evening to share those thoughts with us. And I always love the book choices too. I usually pick some of them up after this presentation. So any of the board members have comments this evening?
I was gonna say, I usually tear up during one of the speeches, but this year it was a little more roasting, which I enjoyed, so thanks for that.
Yeah, I love the humor.
Yeah, my favorite was the blank book. That to the German teacher. That's amazing. Great job, great achievement, guys. We're also very proud of you.
Yeah.
9 hours ago. But I know I speak from all of us to say that we wish you all the best, onward and upward. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. All right, so it's usually our tradition to do a picture. So this would be a pretty big shot. Amanda, where do you think is best? Here? Or this is the board? Try it over there? All right, we'll try it over there. So we'll have our teachers and students come up. So everyone is certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Or if you want to, you are free to leave at this point if you were just here for this presentation. We do have cookies and other treats in the reception area, so please feel free to take some as you go. And thank you to everyone again for coming out this evening. We'll just give everyone a few more minutes. Yeah. Just taking the time to log in. All right, so we'll move on, I guess, to our next presentation. And that is going to be our retiring school board representatives and recognizing both of them. So first, who should I do first? Harrison? Mia? Okay.
I want to be on the board longer, so you have to do Mia first.
Okay. I think it's just a lot of noise in the room right now. Yeah. All right, so we will start with Mia. So Mia, it's been wonderful having you on the board. I've known you way before you were on the board. And as soon as I saw you were one of the applicants, I knew you'd make a wonderful addition to this board. And we all, I think, agreed. Obviously, you're sitting here today, and you have hearing your opinions on matters pertaining to what's going on at the high school, or just general student issues. It's been great having your perspective on this board. And I'm really excited. I heard you're going to be doing water polo, right? Continuing that. You've done so great here at West with your water polo. So congratulations on continuing that in college. And I think I feel like I'm rambling. I love Mia. We've known each other for years. Who else would like to comment about Mia? Marco?
I would like to say, before you, I would like to say, you get to go last. Mia, it's been an absolute pleasure to serve on the board with you. And I figured I would say to both of you, to you and to Harrison, thank you for everything that you've done over the last couple of years. Certainly hope you've learned a lot in what you've seen and done, but the fact of the matter is, I think everybody can agree that when there are oftentimes difficult issues or areas that we are not sure how we're going to fall, it is the opinion and the statements of our student board reps, the ones who are the ones in the trenches, in the field, who tell us what they see, what they experience. And oftentimes that helps us and everybody else who sees what you do understand what our students are going through, what they would like to see done. And those votes oftentimes come down to what you say. And we really appreciate that. Maybe more than any of us up here. I think everybody appreciates all of you more than anybody else. And with that, I think it's the next springboard for both of you. Be leaders, not only at your next step at school, but everything that you do going forward. It shapes you, and I think you have a world to conquer, and I wish you both. So congratulations.
Debbie?
So I feel a little awkward because, Mia's my daughter and when she was nominated to be position, I was like, Mia, you're not going to get it, right? You know that, right? I'm on the board. They're not going to vote for you. I'm like, you can't get this position. And I rescinded from the process, obviously. And of course she shined. And watching her in a public light has been like very eye-opening, but overall, I do think your positions, but school, like student representatives on our board, are one of the biggest privileges that we get, because exactly how Marshall said it, getting your perspective is so important. And I loved having both of your perspectives. And Mia, it's been great having you here for 2 years. And Harrison, it's been great getting to know you and loving your personality. So thank you both. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you kept it together to say that, because I felt myself cheering up as a mom.
Yeah.
You kept it together. Thank you. But yeah, Mia, thank you from all of us. It's been wonderful having you here. And best of luck as you go on. and Harrison. If I planned this better, we would all be sitting here with shirts with your picture on them. We should have.
They're not gonna get that joke.
But there's too much going on at the end of the year, so I kind of fell through the cracks, so sorry about that.
Just real
Um,
quick, I do want to let the record show that I was on the Wissahickon School Board longer than Mia was. She got signed out first, so I'm still here. Thank you.
But aside from your humor, which we all appreciate, definitely, just as everyone else said before, like the opinions that both of you bring to this table are just so valuable to us as board members because you're there every day in the classroom and at our buildings, and being able to hear what's going on firsthand from both of you has been just so important to us. So I really appreciate, Harrison, that you can be comical, but you also can be really serious and tell us your real opinion on issues. I know, especially during the school start time, the time change, you were really valuable during that time, bringing those opinions to us of what you felt as well as your fellow students. So again, like Marshall said, I think you guys are going to do great in the future, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Paul.
Just a quick word about Harrison. And Mia, we appreciate, all the words that have already been said. We appreciate having both of you here, and all your input has been invaluable. But I just want to share one highlight because I think it's important to perform both on the field and off the field. So, in front of the spotlight, obviously you guys have shined. But also on a personal note, my daughter had an accomplishment this year, and it was noted, and Harrison took the time to write her personalized note of congratulatory note. So I just want to let everyone know that it's important, again, to see what people do in front of the spotlight, but it's a behind the scenes thing that often go unnoticed, and it shows the character and the goodwill that you both have. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate
Thank you for
that.
your service.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so sweet of you, Harrison. Anyone else? Any comments this evening?
Just the last comment that studies have shown that when you're older, spending time with younger people increases your happiness. And so I have the best seat.
He definitely does. All right, well, we do have plaques for both of you. So I do want to present those and definitely get pictures. If we could do that, okay? All right, well, unlike other presentations, you guys can't leave yet. You'll have to stay. All right, so we'll move on now to our first public comment period. And I'll note the board appreciates hearing from the community. A maximum of 5 speakers will be heard on the same topic. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. We do have our buzzer, so don't be alarmed if you hear that. In the interest of fairness and in order to treat all speakers equally, it is not the board's practice to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we will follow up with responses on board docs. When approaching the podium or speaking online, please state your name, your municipality of residence, and what you'll be speaking on this evening. So starting with in person, Jim Chiquette. Oh. Oh, you can just go up to the podium so everybody can hear you better.
Jim Giacchetta, live at 413 Cedar Lane in Lower Gwinnett. And I am here to discuss the proposed contract to install a new chiller system for the middle school. And this is changing the system, or it's to put a sound wall because of complaints by neighbors of sound pollution in our neighborhood. And the board has, or the staff has made some efforts towards finding a solution which the neighbors are not satisfied is appropriate. And that is a wall to put around the new air chiller system that is in there that's causing this horribly sounds like a siren in the neighborhood. And what concerns me is not only the health of our children in the neighborhood, but also the students, faculty, staff of the buildings, particularly the middle school, which are even closer to this chiller than we are. And so I urge the board to not approve the contract for these blankets or the wall around this because they're not going to be effective enough. And you spend $300,000 plus to get a solution which is not going to do the job. And so I urge you to not accept that contract proposal and instead do a bidding for a water chilled system, which was the prior system in the middle school for 40 years with no problems, no complaints. And so the cost per year is $100,000 more in energy costs to run this air chilled system versus what would be appropriate for a water chilled system. So we have spending money on energy, more pollution, both air, environmentally, and noise pollution. So that's my request, that you table this contract until more information is obtained. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Jen. Anyone online?
Yes, we have one hand raised, Carmina Taylor.
Carmina, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Carmina, we aren't able to hear you. Can you pause it so we can hear her?
Me, Amy.
You're breaking up.
Hello.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
You know what? On my dead nerves. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to cut to the chase because I've been waiting forever. I'm obviously speaking about policy 903. I would like answers to this question. How many people were in the policy committee meeting in February? How many board members were there? How many community members were there? I looked over the March 31st video and there was a mention about the context of why these decisions were being made. And I'd like a copy of that, right? The community hasn't received that. And I hope when you go for discussion over this vote, you share with the community why you're making these decisions on policy 903 and the others. From all the records that I can find, I have not found a rationale that has come from all of you as to why you're doing that. So I just want to go on record that you're not being transparent with the community. I think you need to be honest with the community that you pay taxpayer dollars for a membership with the Pennsylvania School Board Association. So if you're using taxpayer dollars for your membership, then you need to be able to tell the community what their dollars are going to and for. And I think it's awful that between the first and second reading that you did not have another committee meeting to discuss your rationale for the policy changes. So I'm on my way to the school board meeting. I'm definitely going to speak at the second public comments, but I want to be on record of this because this is just a pattern of your lack of transparency with all the things that you're doing. lack of transparency about Dr. Dewan, lack of transparency about the Stony Creek principal, constant lack of transparency. And I think at some point, you guys have really forgotten that you work for the community. The superintendent works for you. And it just seems like the decisions that keep going round and round and round, you don't talk about it to shed some light as to why you're making these decisions. I have talked to you time and time again about how Black children are being harmed in these school systems. Parents are coming to me for the help, and Dr. Crestfield has told all of the principals that none of the parents are allowed to have me in the room. So if you get rid of the community groups not being able to represent a family member, who do the Black parents have to go to? So I'm going to be very curious as to what is the converse that happens when you guys discuss these policy changes, because you're wrong, and you're wrong. And all the incumbent candidates running for school board should learn, the people should learn about what you're going to do. I'm coming in the building.
Thank you, Carmina. All right, our next person in person is Rob Walker. And Rob, I just want to make sure you're talking about the wall, correct? Because you wrote Schiller. So if it's the Schiller, we're going to put you at the second comment then. This is just for wall for the first one. So I'm going to mark you for a second. Sorry. All right, Irene Lewis. Irene, are you on the Schiller or the wall? The wall? Okay, you first. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Irene Lewis, and I live at 513 Montgomery Road in Lower Gwinnett. I'd like to play a short video. It shows the HVAC noise with its new sound blankets in place. The noise is radiating across the track and fields where our students were practicing at 4:30 this past Friday afternoon. I guess it's not. Can you hear that? Can you hear that noise in the background of the kids playing? Yes? Okay, good. Remember that our children are subjected to this relentless blaring sound every day that the system is running. The noise doesn't stop at the equipment. It stretches into the woods and into our backyards and down onto our streets, including Montgomery Road, as well as Houston. This isn't just about the property lines. It's about how we all experience our school grounds and public spaces. We support our schools with our taxes, and we're proud of the district and its facilities. We want every part of the school to reflect the same high standards. That includes how problems are solved. This board has a responsibility to ensure that the solution to this noise problem is not just quick or convenient, but that the best decision is made for the long run. One that protects the health and well-being of the students and the neighbors, and truly reduces the blaring sound for years to come. We need to be confident that the plan is thoroughly researched, independently reviewed, and grounded in real-world success. Not just recommendations from the same consultant whose previous advice to use these sound blankets has failed. Let's make sure that whatever we build reflects the quality we expect from our schools, and let's get it right for our students and for our neighborhoods. and also for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
There are no hands raised online.
We'll move on to our next in-person speaker, Alan DeCecco. And Alan, sorry, because you wrote chiller down. Are you talking about the chiller or the wall? Wall, okay.
I am one of the neighbors who lives on Montgomery Road and is impacted by the noise generated by the Wissahickon Middle School chillers. While I'm pleased to see that the school board is anxious to resolve this problem, I am concerned that the proposed solution may fall short of the desired result. Now that the price tag of this fix has exponentially increased, should we consider other options that could produce a better result? I believe there's two options to consider. One, hire a firm that specializes in assessing, designing, and installing vibration and noise control solutions. The proposed current fix has Harrison Acoustics, an acoustics consultant, design a proposed solution and have a general contractor, CMG, build and install it. If the fix is inadequate, it seems there will be a question as to who's responsible for the fix and who pays for it. Second option would be to revert to a similar water-cooled system inside the building as it was prior. It is my understanding that the water-cooled systems, in addition to being quieter, provide significant energy efficiency. This savings, combined with the savings of not having to build the wall, over time may prove to save the school district money. Obviously, I'm without all the facts as to why the chiller was moved out of the building and changed to an air-cooled system, but I think it's worth exploring and asking these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Anyone else?
There are no hands raised online.
Then we'll move to Rudolph. Is Eric still here? Oh, Eric, yeah, there you are. Sorry. I didn't see fine. You're up next. So 16.2 and 16.1. Wall or chiller? Right, so we're just talking about right now because we're voting on them. Okay. Is being voted on, right? Yeah, but yeah, you can talk about wall and Veritas.
Yes, yeah. So my name's Eric Rudolph, Lower Gwinnett Township. Lived in this area for 30 years now, and I'm excited to have my daughter moving back here with 2 grandchildren. And so very happy. But I wanted to, follow up with some relative to the conversation on April 28th in the previous board meeting, and provide a little more detail to, kind of looking for the future, what we need in the future. And I think oftentimes you have to kind of revisit the past. If you revisit the past and you look at what Wissahickon School District was, it was put in the middle of a residential area. Okay, the zoning is 100% residential, not with a school that has a 450-ton chiller sitting in the back. And the engineers at the time knew this. That's why they put water-cooled chillers inside a mechanical, okay, to keep the noise from getting out. The move of the chillers outside just put them and expose them to our community. And as we talked about before, that noise is amplified. So we're in a predicament. It's hard for us to give you direction. We feel conflicted, being caught in this noise, okay, and wanting a solution. But we need the right solution. And I think that when we look at the economics of this, and you go to the Department of Energy website, everything points to using a water-cooled chiller. They're twice as efficient. And if you look at a chiller this size, the savings is on the order of $100,000 a year. That's pretty remarkable. It's not just money, it's less carbon emission, it's less noise emission. It is absolutely no risk because we know it works. These are comparably cost systems when you take a chiller system, because you can't have a chiller without a wall. The water-cooled chillers are inherently quieter, 4 to 8 times quieter than an air-cooled chiller. You can put them in the building and they will operate, and they'll operate more efficient, twice as efficient. So I think we have proven operation, we have greater efficiency, and we have experience with longer service. That chiller lasted for over 40 years. And the DOE, Department of Energy, when they give you the guidelines for the 2 types of chillers, the chiller life that they assign to an air-cooled chiller is 15 to 20 years. For a water-cooled chiller, it's 20 to 25 years. We experienced 40 years. So I really ask you to step back, think, and figure out a way to allow us to go back and understand what our options are and really find the right one to last us for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
No one online.
Right, we'll close our first public comment period then. We'll move on next to board president report. And the first thing that we have, the only item under board president report is the approval of the service agreement with Educational Leadership Consulting. And that's for our professional development coming out later this year. We have our board retreat. So do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions concerning this agreement? No? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, superintendent report, Jim.
Thank you. Just the one item where we discussed last meeting, the adjustment to this year's school calendar to move the last day of school back one, which will now be Wednesday, June 11th. And presuming this is approved tonight, we will publicize that change widely tomorrow morning. So to that end, I'd like please a motion to approve agenda item 8.1.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
Jim, I know a lot of people were asking about school-specific events and how this would affect like middle school graduation, for example. I got a lot of questions. Will Mrs. Bauer be sending out something tomorrow once it's approved, do you know? Or like, do they reach out to the building principals about that?
Each building, if anything is changed, will send something out. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but very, very soon.
Hopefully this week.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you aware of anything at this point that this will affect?
I think just that the one moving up ceremony.
Thank you. So any other questions or comments? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Assistant Superintendent report.
Good evening. There are no information items or action items for this meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. What's the report, Michelle?
Just one action item tonight, which is the approval of settlement agreement between the district and the family, which was the work session last week, and there are no changes since that time. So looking for a motion to approve item 10.1.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Board Secretary report, Tim?
Tonight for your approval are items 11.1 through 11.4 with no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Amy, can I just make a comment? It's very difficult to hear all of you. I can barely hear what you're saying. If you guys can talk into those microphones, that would be great.
Hold them up. All right, we'll try holding them up. Rosetta, is that better?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, board treasurer report, Tim?
Tonight for your approval is item 12.1, the March Treasurer's Report.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Tim. Human Resources, Danielle.
Good evening, everyone. Changes from last week's agenda are marked with an asterisk and can be found in bold in the details. These include a retirement, resignations, and appointments in items 13.1. 13.9 was added as a MOU between the WEA and the district in regards to an early retirement incentive for transportation drivers and assistants. All other items were reviewed at last week's work session and have no other changes. So this evening, I'm seeking approval for action items 13.1 through 13.9. Thank you.
So moved. All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
And additionally, we have a blue sheet item. So we are excited to ask for the approval of our newest middle school principal, Dr. Nicole. Yeah, Dr. Lindsay Nicola. We're very excited, and that is also added to the agenda this evening.
Danielle, one question. I just noticed that 13.8, the contract with School Operations Services Group had an asterisk. Was there a change to that contract?
The effective date
Oh,
has
just
changed, yes.
okay.
Same for 13.9, Danielle.
So that's 13.8. The effective date of the SOS agreement, the effective date was changed.
13.9 also has an asterisk.
Yep, and I announced that that is the MOU between WA and the district.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was the change.
Well, this is a brand new item, 13.9, correct? Do we have an estimated value as to what this is, what's the financial impact of this?
Tim does, I'll let him speak to that. It will depend on how many people take advantage of this. So we are still waiting to see how many will accept. So that number's unknown at this point until we see that, but Tim probably has a little bit more information about that.
So the plan is first 3 to 5 drivers that retire and resign will get a $5,000 buyout each. 6 to 10 will get a $7,500, and from 11 up, they'll get a $10,000 buyout. The goal of this is to offset the long-term cost of the first student contract that we're looking to extend. That will make the out years go down by 2%. So instead of 8% each out year, it'll be 6%, which will free up some more room towards the budget. And really, this comes down to the fact that first students will be running the routes versus us running them internally, giving them more ability to offset their costs.
And these bus drivers were doing our regular routes, or were they doing more of the kind of van routes, for a lack of a better word?
So it's a good question. The drivers are currently running daily routes, some of the routes that as needed. Predominantly, they are van drivers. They, if they decide to, because of the way it's structured, can actually transition right over to first student and pick up those positions if they so choose. So there is no job loss for them on that end. They would actually be able to transfer right over if they chose to, provided they met first students hiring criteria, which they met ours. So realistically, that should not be an issue. But it's just more long-term savings.
And one other item I just want to say, it's completely optional, 100%.
Can I make a comment? Dr. Nikolov is here with us tonight, and we had the opportunity as a board to meet with her briefly last week. And I was thrilled to meet her and thrilled to hear about her vision for the middle school. I know she's going to be fantastic. Just a great addition to WIS Nation. So thank you, Dr. Nikolov. We're really excited to have you. And I don't know what else. Thank you for being here too. Please hold your applause for approval.
Would you mind just standing up and just waiting so that everybody can see you? And Thank you. Right, any other comments this evening? I'll just note also, I'm sad to see Ms. Washam leaving Stony Creek. As a parent at Stony Creek, I certainly understand her reasons, wanting to be closer to home and family, but she has been just such a wonderful principal at Stony Creek, and I know she's gonna be missing her Paul Field the same way. But we certainly wish her luck in her new role. All right, if there's no other comments or questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there questions? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were questioning about the vote. It preceded all the comments. I just proceeded the comments. All right, so we'll move on now to communications committee report.
Still
Wait,
can't
now
hear
we
you,
applause,
Amy.
Right? Now we can do our applause.
Oh, now we
Dr.
can
Nicola, thank you.
Congratulations.
She can leave if she wants to.
I don't think she wants to leave, but you're welcome to. All right, Zaki, back to you for communications.
No agenda items for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And curriculum and technology, Deanne?
There are no changes from last week, what we discussed. We are seeking approval for items 15.1 to, now my computer's not scrolling, how many we have? 15.7.
So moved.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? One thing, Jim, I will ask, if you could share with the community, it's something I had a question about my first year on the board, and I've seen some community members.
Still can't hear you.
Sorry, Rosetta, I'm forgetting to hold it up. It was a question I first had when I joined the board, and I know we've received some questions from community members. Can you just explain the location of the dentist and why we have a New Jersey dentist coming to Wissahickon?
Sure, be glad to. Yes, the dentist actually does practice in Pennsylvania. We've corrected that. He's out of Paoli. The school, every district has a dentist. It's required by the Department of Ed, and it's not a terribly big role. Each year, there are some students who need an examination, and those are done no charge to the student. And we pay an extremely nominal fee to the dentist. It's actually $10 per student. So it's something that and this dentist has been serving us for years. It's been a very positive relationship. His original address was in Jersey. That was years ago. It's now in Powell.
All right, thank you, Jim. Were there any other questions on these agenda items? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Facilities and transportation?
Thank you, Amy. So we have a total of 5 action items on the Facilities and Transportation Committee report, which were all reviewed and discussed last week. Given some of the current discussion around item 16.3 regarding the sound wall for the middle school chiller, I'm going to ask first for a motion to approve items 16.1, 16.2, 16.4, and 16.5, and then do a separate motion for the vote on 16.3.
Joe, there's 6 and 7.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. My scrolling wasn't working either. So let me amend that. A motion to approve items 16.1 through 16.7 with the exception of 16.3.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes then with regard to 16.1 through 16.7, excluding 16.3.
Great. So now back to 16.3. Again, the sound wall to add to the middle school chiller. So I'm asking for a motion to approve action item 16.3.
Do we have a motion? A second? A motion's been made and seconded.
And Amy, we can obviously take some questions and comments, but when we do the vote, I would like for there to be a roll call vote.
Of course, we can do that. All right, so, comments or questions from board members with regard to the wall?
So I know that last week's meeting, we did talk about different options around replacing the chiller. And I can't recall, I'm afraid, if those replacement options were water cooled or air cooled. You know.
The option to replace it was not a air water cooled. It was changing out the one that we currently use to put on a water cold one. We would not be able to put it back into the building based on the way the boiler room has been reconfigured. If we put it on top of the building, it costs well over $1.2 million.
And do we know what type of other systems we have in our other buildings? Are they air cooled or water cooled? So sorry. I don't know why my mic's not working.
I don't know, but it's very difficult to make a decision when I can't hear what you're saying.
I know, I'm sorry, Rosetta. I'm not sure why my mic's not working. Do we know what our other buildings have, air cooled versus water cooled?
It'd be different. I'd have to get a list from Mr. Russell on which ones at each building. I'm not sure exactly which type.
Other comments, Marshall?
Yeah, Rosetta, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. My concern based upon our conversation was that the cost of what we are intending to do now has significantly increased. And we don't have, I don't know if it's a guarantee or a reasonable guarantee that it's going to do what we want it to do. And that is, I think, a significant concern. If we knew that what we had intended to do was going to take care of the noise situation, and I'm not sure that at the end of the day, switching out, swapping out is necessarily the answer. It's removing the noise level that's causing people around it to have a problem. It's my understanding that there are other potential ways of doing this, but having heard that what we're going to be doing may not have the desired result, I'm not sure that spending the amount that we have now to do so is the prudent thing to do, because we don't know that it's going to change the outcome. If we knew it was going to change the outcome, fine. We want to get rid of whatever inconvenience there is, whatever extent we can. But if it's not going to do it, if it doesn't change the effect of what we want it to do, and we have to then go back and do something else, well, now we're into additional surveys, additional experts, additional engineers, additional costs, and I'm not sure we're at that point. We've been going at this a long time, but based upon the cost that we see now and the fact that we don't have, I think, a reasonable guarantee that's going to change it to within the acceptable levels. And again, it comes down to acceptable levels per the township requirements. We haven't heard that the change is going to absolutely take care of that, which we're going to have to make sure of anyway. So in that regard, I do have concern.
So just to kind of add to Mark's point, first and foremost, I mean, for me as a board member, I mean, I acknowledge and I agree that the chiller is in violation of Lower Gwinnett sound ordinances. And as a result, I feel that we are obligated as a board to do something about it and to remedy the situation. However, the proposed sound wall, especially at the cost of $370,000, I'm not convinced at this point that it's the right solution. I mean, again, I agree that we need to do something to remediate the issue, but I'm not convinced that what's proposed tonight is that right solution. So as a result, I'm going to be voting no on 16.3.
So my concern for the neighbors is that if we vote no tonight, it will definitely delay things beyond summer cooling season, meaning you're going to experience another summer with the noise. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. So it sounds like to do the water cooled option that's being suggested, according to Mr. Bricker, that would then involve much more money in putting this and putting the system on the roof. So my assumption is that amount of construction and bidding that out, et cetera, would not happen just from a timeline, logical perspective. during the summer. So in my mind, we may not think sound wall is going to solve the issue, but at the same time, if we vote it down and then wait for other options, you're definitely going to have another summer with the noise is my concern.
We can't have comments directly from the audience at this point.
Can I ask a question to Tim? Can you just, you said that you couldn't put it in the basement anymore because it's been reconfigured. Can you just explain that to me briefly? And if there's a way to configure it back where it could possibly be in the basement again? And is there a risk to students? Because I know it's like low carbon emissions, but there's still some emissions, right?
So one of the main reasons it was put out, as it was explained to me, was the sound inside the building was annoying the students. And that was one of the reasons why it was moved outside. Additionally, after it was moved outside 7 years ago, the changes that have occurred in the boiler make it, putting it back in that boiler not realistic.
So my concern is, I think we all thought this wall would cost way less money. And you had alluded to the fact that, like, if you were to place the system, I don't want to misquote you. I think you said like 800,000, 700 or 8 for like just a new system that would only bring it down a few decibels probably. And so that wasn't going to be probably a realistic situation. But let's say we did this wall and then it, for some reason, wasn't meeting township ordinance, then we'd have to look at replacing it anyway. So now we're already up at 1 million. I'm not saying I want to spend $1 million of the school district's money and taxpayer money on a new system. I mean, this is just sort of an impossible situation because no matter what, we're spending a ton of money. And we're in a situation where, are we sure that a water cooler chilled system would actually reduce noise? You said it was noisy in the building. If we put it on the roof, is that going to be noisy too?
I'm not an expert, but I would assume on the roof that it would be quieter. The wall, right now, we are 5 to 7 decibels above the nighttime ordinance. With regards to that, the wall is projected to reduce the sound by 12 to 15 decibels, which would get us under. Putting the tower on top of the building again, as I said, right now, and this is just before tariffs, before supply chain issues, before everything else that comes in, was roughly $1.2 million. Where it is and where it will be bid out, I cannot answer.
Our current system, how much longer do you think we have with that system before we need to replace it anyway?
Can't hear you.
The current system is supposed to last 15 years, roughly. It could last longer, it could last shorter, and we are 7 years in.
So I'd like to echo Marshall and Joe's comments. I made a few comments last week and asked a few questions. I know that the district has spent considerable amount of time and effort on this issue. I know that the neighbors and the community have been amazingly patient through this process, which we appreciate. It's a very tough problem to solve. But even given the time and effort that has been put into it, what has changed significantly recently is the cost. And so we were working under a certain risk reward proposition to consider the opportunity or the option that's been presented. But that's changed recently because costs have gone up. And so given that, and given the possibility that the current solution may not work, it may not be sufficient to meet code and meet the standards of the neighbors and the community, it is my belief that we push this decision in order to further examine what options might be there. And get some real costs as to what those options may cost us to make a more informed decision. So I appreciate those comments and I agree.
I have a question. So when the water chills were in the school, do we know that it was loud in the school? Someone said it had been annoying. No, I moved here freshman year for here.
Yes, it was reported as loud in the school.
I think I would have been there and I don't recall any. I also was like, that was during like COVID time.
Yeah.
So I was like out for 7th grade and like hybrid for 8th grade, but I don't recall any noise within the building.
Well, just for the sake of thought here, like, I don't know what you want to hear. I don't know what you want to hear, but my job's not to tell you guys what you want to hear. I'm gonna tell you what the students think. So if I were in the school and there was a water chiller, and I don't know the solution, I haven't picked a side. If I were in the school and there's a water chiller, like, we gotta remember the schools aren't for you guys or you guys, the schools are for me and her. Like, I want to be in a place where I can learn undistracted. So I don't know what solutions quite is for the students, but that seems like what we should really be focusing on. And listen, I'm sure it's not pleasant to have a loud noise in your neighborhood all the time. I grew up in the city of Miami. I'm no stranger to it. But, you know, it sounds selfish because I'm the student, but it's true that we are what the schools are for. We want to learn, and I'd rather be in a place where I can learn uninterrupted than maybe I'm hearing a buzz while I play basketball, you know? So again, I don't know if they were that loud in school. I don't know how loud they are in the neighborhood. I live in Lower Gwinnett, but I guess it's not close enough to me. So I think that's a perspective that most students would align with.
Any other comments? Oh, Jim?
Amy, I have a question.
I'm so sorry, Rosetta. I was
No,
thinking
I have a question now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if we waited, and again, that's gonna, like Steve said, that's gonna delay, and there's gonna still be the summer with the chillers causing noise. But the question I have is, how efficient are the water coolers versus the air chillers? And would there be significant, like, ongoing savings from, like, maintenance stuff with water coolers versus air chillers? Like, what's the difference? Do we know?
I'll have to get you an answer on that. I have no idea.
In all due respect, I think we're getting into an area that is beyond what we're talking about. The difference between an air chiller and a water chiller is not the issue before the board. The issue before the board is, what do we do about a noise issue that needs to be in compliance with the township code? That's the issue. If it was a $3 issue, I don't think anybody would care if it was a water or an air chiller.
Right.
I don't think that was the issue. That's never come up before tonight, as far as I know. The issue is, how do we take care of the noise issue? And what I am concerned with tonight is the cost of what it's going to be. If we are unable to say unequivocally that this is going to do the trick, then maybe we need to see if there are other options to ensure that we can reduce that level to acceptable township standards. To me, that's the only issue. And if there is a cost benefit to deciding if moving it or changing it is an option, but what we want to do is also maximize the savings for the taxpayers while reducing it to the acceptable level, maybe we need to look into that a little bit. I mean, we've been dealing with it for a while as it is. And if it takes a little bit longer to do that, so be it, to get the result we need. So again, I don't want to get bogged down in the details of what the benefits of certain types of units are. What we're really focusing in is, how do we get rid of the issue with regard to the noise and reducing it to acceptable, allowable measures within the township? That's what we have to decide. How do we get there? I'm not convinced that this proposal is the way to do it.
Yeah, and to simplify it even further, the question before us tonight and the vote tonight is about whether or not you want to approve $370,000 to build this wall. It's yes or no. The longer term issue and the unresolved piece, if this is voted down, is how we get the sound down to within the township ordinance. But again, the specific question for tonight, the simple one for tonight, is if you believe that the wall of $370,000 is a good investment, number one, and number two is going to resolve the sound issue, then you should vote for it. I'm not there, but doesn't mean I have the answer. But what I feel is that what's presented tonight for us to vote on is, I'm not convinced it's the right answer. That's why I'm doing it.
I think the issues are related though, Marshall, in that if we're voting no on the wall, then there is going to have to be more time and effort and research put into another possible solution presented to the board. Now,
That's absolutely right.
obviously, right. Obviously, if we're asking these questions, maybe we don't feel like we have all the information. But I do want to just acknowledge that a lot of time and money has already been put into trying to come up with a solution. And obviously, I'm hearing, maybe it's just not there yet. I hear you.
My only other comment is I've heard audio, I've heard the sound, going past it during the summer months. I want to take care of the sound issue for the neighbors. So, and I'm being told that the sound wall could reduce it by 10 to 12 decibels. And to me, that sounds like a reasonable expectation. So.
I still haven't heard from any middle school student about noise in the building. Has anyone? You didn't notice.
I think, but the concern about the noise in the building was in the old system, not the current system. The current system's out. So
True, but the residents did bring up the comment about, for the students as well, students and community. So I just was checking in on that, and Harrison as well. Students
experiencing the noise outside.
or inside. Were you talking about inside or outside, Harrison?
I was talking about inside the school. If I were a student, I think the students' learning space should be prioritized over the volume in the neighborhood.
Referring to is my son doesn't hear in the building. Any other comments or questions before you vote? All right, so we'll do a roll.
Okay, Mr. Antonio,
No.
Mr. Badger,
No.
Mr. Bleefeld,
No.
Ms. Kiavachi,
No.
Mr. Golson,
No.
Ms. Karianikis,
No.
Dr. Morris, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Ginsburg.
No. All right, thank you. And that motion is now passed. Tim, if we could look into other alternatives then, continue do that for us. Thank you. All right, so then. All right, I'll just hold it up. All right, so the vote did not pass, and I asked Tim if he could look into the system, what we can do to address the issue moving forward. All right, Finance Committee report. Steve.
Sorry. We have 9 items. This evening, they're all the same as last week, with the exception that the vote on the draft budget that was sent to the Pennsylvania Department of Education was removed since we voted on that last week. So I'm asking for a motion to approve those 9 items.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Steve. All right, moving on to Policy Committee, Marshall.
Thank you. Tonight, we have action items for the approval of 18.1 through 18.10. And this is the approval of the second reading of these policy, either revisions, changes, or keeping things the same. Just to recap for everybody, this is the approval of the second reading of these. These items, and we're talking about 18.1 through 18.10, which were originally 11 actually, but one was removed a couple of meetings ago because of a change in the law and had to be removed for legal purposes. These policy provisions were originally brought up at the public policy meeting back on February 18th, where they were discussed. And as those of you who go to the meetings know, we, for a variety of reasons, bring up multiple policies. We review them over time, and we can add policies, delete policies, revise policies, amend policies. We've been doing that for the 5.5 years, certainly, that I've been the chair of the committee, and I know for years before that. So for our policies, we had a duly advertised policy committee meeting on February 18th, where we discussed the multiple policies that were up for discussion. On March 31st, we had the first reading of those policies, at which time I presented a synopsis of those, and they were all published for review by the public. That was the first review. And that was on March 31st. At the following meeting on April 7th, we had the approval of the first reading of those policies. That was in fact the third presentation of those policies after the meeting, the first reading, and then the second reading, which then becomes the approval of the first reading. And it may seem a little odd, but that's the way we do. So the approval of the first reading came on the third meeting when these policy provisions were discussed. But unlike most votes within the school district, we don't stop there with regard to policy. After the approval of the first reading, we then had the second reading last week, April 28th, where they were once again presented for review, discussion, or comment. And tonight becomes the approval of the second reading of those same policies. And essentially that is now the fifth time that those policy provisions have gone through the system before passage by the board. So just to review, that is our policy. And I know tonight there was a concern about one of them was 903. It has to do with those who are allowed to speak at public meetings, at school board meetings. There was a couple of revisions to that. And I invite all of you to go on the policies for all of the school districts within Montgomery County and beyond. Because what you will notice is our policy is broader than almost every other district. Not only do we allow for current residents to speak publicly at meetings, we allow for taxpayers to speak at public meetings, we allow alumni, graduates to speak at meetings, we allow any firms or corporations who are eligible to provide bids and do business with the school district. We have a provision to allow current district employees. We have a provision to allow parents and guardians of enrolled students and currently enrolled students. Most districts are not as broad as we are. And again, I invite you to look at the 23 districts in Montgomery and beyond. Where we made a change was we actually broadened it to allow alumni going forward. That was not a provision that was in here previously. And I again invite you, no other district, I believe in the county, allows for alumni to speak. Now, why might they do that? Well, let's assume that you move out of district, you move out of the state, and 30 years later, you decide to come back and say something. A lot of districts don't allow that. In fact, I think we may be the only one in that regard. So in that regard, we simply, along with the other policy provisions that have been brought forth since February, are part of the batch of policies tonight for second and final review, the approval of the second reading of those policy provisions. So with that, I yield back to Amy for approval of policy.
So, all right, Marshall, thank you for that. Do we have a motion to approve? Actually, do you want to break 903 out and do the others?
I don't know that there's unless there's a specific reason to do so. We've never done that in the past.
No, because we did it.
But if you want to, we can do that. It's up to.
Let's have comments, yes, and then we can. Is there a motion to approve all the policies 18.1 through, sorry, my scrolling is the 0.10. Thank you.
I would like to separate.
You would like to separate?
Okay, so then what we will do is we will have first the vote on 18.1 through 18.9, which covers the other revisions or reviews, second review of these policy provisions for the second approval tonight.
All right, can I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions as it relates to 18.1 through 18.9? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. And now with regard to 18.10, do we have? a
Correct.
motion?
We are now moving for approval of the second and final reading of 18.10, which correlates to policy number 903.
So moved.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Steve?
Yeah, I would like to retain the red lined out language regarding anyone representing.
Right, any other comments or questions?
So I commented on this a couple weeks ago and during one of the other meetings, but I think what we are trying to accomplish is carving out this time for taxpayers and district residents. That's who we're here for. And the students, obviously. That's who we're here for. That's who we serve. That's who should get this time. I don't think we are interested in outside groups that aren't representing our community to be speaking at our board meetings. And certainly coming to a board meeting is not the only way to advocate for someone. That's, that wouldn't be a first avenue. Like I had pointed out before, I am not allowed to comment at my alma mater, but I still, when I had a concern, I reached out to district leadership. I'm able to email them and have my voice heard. So I don't know. I don't see this as very restrictive in any way personally, but tell me otherwise.
Any other comments or questions concerning this policy? Joe?
I agree with what Deanne said. I mean, the spirit of what she's saying, I don't think that our policy as revised is overly restrictive. I mean, I think primarily what we want to do is make sure that we prioritize stakeholders for the district. So anyone who has a stake directly in the, the workings of the district, obviously taxpayers, residents, students, even alums, business partners who may be working with the district, et cetera. What it does not allow for is like outside groups from in-state or out of state or beyond that, again, are not direct stakeholders of the district to come and grab time at the podium. And again, to Deanne's point, those folks have other avenues that they can make their voice and opinion heard. We just don't need to reserve public meeting time, in my view, for those speakers.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else want to be heard on this? All right, then we'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Antonio?
Yes.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Bleefeld?
Yes.
Ms. Kiavachi?
Yes.
Mr. Golson?
No.
Ms. Karianikis?
No.
Dr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Oh,
Mrs. Ginsburg?
Yes. And what was the vote total, Amanda? I was writing it down.
That is 6 yes and 3 no.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. All right. So moving on then, we'll go on to Racial Equity Oversight Committee. Oh, first, thank you, Marshall. And now Rachel.
Sorry, Rosetta. I'm all done. Thank you.
Paul Riak.
Thanks, Amy. No items for this evening.
All right, thank you. Jean, Health, Wellness, and Safety.
No items for this evening.
Thank you. Extracurricular, Marshall.
There is nothing new to report this evening.
All right, thank you. And I provided my MCU report last week. Anything new at North Monco? Okay.
I'm sorry. There is one good news. So Charlie Cole, who is the culinary arts instructor at North Monco, was named the American Culinary Foundation Educator of the Year.
Yay.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. Anything else on North Monco? That's it? Okay. Well, thank you. PSBA, Deanne, and maybe you could explain also, Deanne, a little bit about what PSBA does.
PSBA is the Pennsylvania School Board Association. It is a membership group. It's an advocacy group really for, I think they advocate for the best interests of school and students. Their big issues are fair school funding, fair charter school reimbursement. They've always, fought for what I think a lot of school board members and school districts are trying to fight for in just a more organized way. And they're a pretty good resource for that. And they, a lot of times will coordinate opportunities to meet with legislators and different things like that. So I found them to be overall pretty positive. Do I love every aspect? No, I'll be honest, no. But, I also they're serving they're serving 500 districts in Pennsylvania, some of which have very different needs. So, you know, I think they're doing a good job in that regard. Is that okay of an explanation, I guess?
Sure, yeah, I just wanted to hear what kind of services they provide to the district.
Oh, they do provide like policy recommendations based on best practices and legal requirements of the state and federal law. They provide us with oh my gosh, what else do they provide us with, June? You probably know more than me.
You know, they do continuing education with us.
Yeah.
Like after you're elected to the board, you have to do continuing education and they do
Yeah.
provide us with continuing education.
Right. When you are elected, if you're a new board member, you do have to do a training and they do provide that. They also provide other like continuing education resources for school board members and they put on different like legal forums. So districts are informed about that. They have a scholarship for students. They have, they highlight grants and other things that school districts can apply to. So it's actually pretty useful in terms of like staying in touch with regulations and grants and everything at the federal and state level. What I did want to share about this sort of advocacy work that I'm trying to do, on Thursday night, I attended a town hall meeting on fair school funding over in Fort Washington. And there were a couple of state reps there. And the outlook for federal school funding is kind of grim. And one of the things that Representative Hambidge said again, and since there's so many people in this room, I'm going to say it again, what she said to me, and that is call your federal representatives. So ours are Madeleine Dean, John Fetterman, and Dave McCormick, and ask for funding of public education. Emails do not carry as much weight. If you call, you leave your name, what you're asking for, it can be 2 minutes of your time. But the more people that call, the more impact it has because their aides keep a tally of what people call about. And she just said that was so important because we're looking, you know, when you look at, oh, we don't have that much federal funding. You're right. But 50% of our state funding comes directly from the federal government. So if that all were to go away or be greatly reduced, we would be hurting, just like all districts would be. So I'm disturbed about the outlook for funding federally. And so I just am asking for voices to help in trying to lift that up. That's it.
Great, thank you, Deanne. Do any of the board members have questions or comments for Deanne? And Jim, did you have anything additional to add regarding?
Just to say that PSBA is also serves as they have lots of connections in Harrisburg and they're a voice of public education and they get indoors. You're right, email is not so good and phone calls are better and in person is even better. So they do that role.
And I do appreciate that opportunity that they present to board members where they will connect us with legislators so that we can have those conversations. I do appreciate that role. All right. ERC, is there anything to report on that, Deanne?
No, thank you.
All right. All right, well then we're at our second public comment period. And the board appreciates hearing from the community. A maximum of 5 speakers will be heard on the same topic. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Again, I'll remind everyone we do have the new buzzer. In the interest of fairness and in order to treat all speakers equally, it is not our practice to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we will follow up with responses on board docs. And when approaching the podium or speaking online, please make sure you state your name, your municipality of residence, and the topic on which you're speaking. All right, so the first person to speak in person is Katie O.
Good evening. My name is Katie O, and I live in Bluebell. I'm a proud parent of 3 Wissahickon students, 2 in high school and 1 in middle school. As we observe Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I'm here tonight as part of a strong and engaged group of Asian and Asian American families in the Wissahickon community. In the spirit of promoting cultural awareness and inclusion, we asked the board to recognize Lunar New Year as an official school holiday. Lunar New Year is not just a cultural tradition, it's one of the most meaningful holidays across many Asian communities, including Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Thai, Filipino, and others across the diaspora. Celebrated by nearly 2 billion people worldwide, it is a time centered on family, reflection, and renewal. About 16% of Wissahickon students identify as Asian, yet our district calendar does not reflect that diversity. Despite that, our students have shown incredible leadership. Through clubs like Asian Student Association and Asian Culture Committee, they've led critical conversations on inclusion and stood up against anti-Asian hate. Their Lunar New Year celebrations and May AAPI Heritage Month events have drawn hundreds. These initiatives have created spaces where students can be themselves, participate in something meaningful, and share and celebrate their identities. None of this would have been possible without the dedicated support of faculty advisors, Mrs. Lee and Dr. Leister, who have modeled civic engagement and empowered students to use their voices for positive change. But as parents, we know that what happens outside the classroom matters just as much. We need to see that same support reflected in the district's leadership and calendar. We have momentum and we are not alone. Neighboring districts like Upper Dublin, Lower Moreland, and Central Bucks have already made Lunar New Year a school holiday. Wissahickon can and should lead alongside them. We've collected 211 signatures in support, 160 from Wissahickon residents and 15 from teachers, staff, and administrators at WIS. Our ask is simple, but meaningful. Make Lunar New Year a recognized school holiday. This aligns directly with District Equity Goal number 5 to create a safe, inclusive environment where every student feels like they belong. We've seen the words in strategic plans and mission statements. Now we ask for action that brings them to life. This is not about a day off. It is about dignity, representation. It's about telling our children, we see you, your culture matters, you belong here. As a parent, this matters deeply to me. So tonight, I urge the board, Dr. Crisfield and Dr. Dewan to take this step, to lead with courage, act with intention, and affirm the values we all say we stand for. Let's make Lunar New Year a school holiday and show our students that this is truly a district where everyone belongs. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our children.
Thank you, Katie. Is anyone online?
There are no hands raised online.
All right, then we'll move to our next person that's in person. Casey Young.
Good evening. My name is Case Young, a junior at Wissahickon High School, representing the Asian Student Association and Asian Culture Committee. Tonight, I'm addressing an important opportunity for our school to demonstrate its commitment to inclusion and cultural respect. For 16% of our student body and the many families throughout our community, Lunar New Year represents one of the most significant cultural celebrations of the year. This celebration, celebrated across Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and numerous other Asian cultures, serves as a time of joy, family gatherings, and cultural traditions, much like Christmas is for many. It's a day filled with celebration where families come together to share meals, exchange gifts, and participate in vibrant festivities, often in places like Chinatown. Currently, students celebrating Lunar New Year face a difficult choice: either miss important family traditions or return to school facing academic consequences, often facing a daunting amount of makeup work, 3 to 5 hours, plus assignments from the next day, which can turn a day of joy into a source of stress. Other school districts, such as Upper Dublin and North Penn, have recognized the significance of Lunar New Year and their communities, with Asian populations of 8% and 20% respectively, and have taken steps to include that in their school calendars. Here at WIS, our Asian student population of 16%, double that of Upper Dublin, represents a significant portion of our community whose important cultural traditions deserve equal recognition. Our student body has clearly demonstrated enthusiasm for cultural experiences evidenced by the impressive 884 student signatures collected in just 3 days. Alongside with the Lunar New Year Festival and AAPI Cultural Fair organized by ASA and ACC that have consistently drawn over 100 attendees annually for the last 3 years. These events celebrate our heritage while creating inclusive spaces for others to learn and participate, fostering understanding and appreciation throughout our school community. Yet we can extend this opportunity further. As one non-Asian sophomore expressed, I'm not Asian, but I attended the festival hosted by ASA every year. I would definitely love to visit Chinatown celebrations if we had a day off. Now, this is not just one day. It's about creating a lasting impact on our school community where every student feels seen, heard, and appreciated for who they are. When students are asked, what is Christmas? Everyone knows the answer because there's already recognition and awareness. Yet when we ask students about what's Lunar New Year, many freshmen responded with, what's that? Currently, we rely solely on ASA to spread awareness, and there's a limit to that. By officially recognizing Lunar New Year as a holiday, we would create an inclusive environment where all students can feel celebrated and empowered to honor and share their cultural heritage. Again, This holiday represents not just one culture, but diverse traditions throughout Asia. Such recognition aligns perfectly with our core value of ensuring that every student feels valued and respected. As we often say, we are true blue with a heart of gold. This is an opportunity to demonstrate that gold standard of inclusion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kate. There are now hands raised on.
Next person, Ginger Paulette. Ginger, I'm so sorry. Let me stop the clock for 1 second. I just want to note with regard to the Bluebell issue, I do note that you have it listed here. I did just have a statement that I did want to make just before we. Oh, so sorry. So I'm holding the paper, scrolling, doing it all at once. Sorry about that. So I did want to note that the board certainly welcomes comments on all matters related to the district schools, and members of public who wish to provide a public comment are just respectfully reminded that comments need to refrain from making any public allegations that are unfounded, that share innuendo or rumor or violate any staff member or student's privacy rights. And it's also something the district cannot talk about any sort of student disciplinary issues under federal law. So just to the extent you're talking about the Bluebell matter, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I understand. I know there's another parent that wants to talk. So if she needs my support, I'll back her up. But my primary reason for being here is really to talk about the Lunar New Year. Okay, so I'll go after her. Okay, so hi, I'm Ginger Pouliot. I'm a Bluebell parent. I'm the parent of 2 half Asian students in the Wissahickon School District, a 5th and an 8th grader. I'm supporting KDO and the wider Asian community in the school district and asking the board to include the Lunar New Year as a designated holiday in the school calendar. The Lunar New Year is one of the most important celebrations of the year for the Asian cultures, including Chinese, Vietnamese, Philippines, and South Korean communities. It is more than a day off. For us, it is a day for family reunions, remembering ancestors, and following traditions to usher in good luck for the new year. We attended this year's Lunar New Year Festival, which was organised by the Wissahickon High School Club. The event was well attended by well over 100 people. Let's talk about the cultural diversity of the student population. The current diversity within the school district includes 16.4% Asian students. The number is slightly higher due to multiracial kids such as mine. Since Asian students are the 2nd largest ethnic group, the school district needs to show commitment to our culture and the sense of belonging they promote through recognizing holidays of significance to us. We need to have a stronger show of action than a Facebook post by the school district saying Happy Lunar New Year. Currently, surrounding school districts like North Penn, Central Bucks, and Upper Dublin have included it as a holiday on their school calendars, and we should do the same. I'm closing with a question to consider. When my 2 kids asked me why the school district does not recognize Lunar New Year as a designated holiday, I don't have an answer. Can the school board and administration tell my kids and the other Asian students why the school district doesn't recognize Lunar New Year as a designated holiday? Thanks.
Thank you, Ginger. Thank you, Ginger. Right. Next is Jim Kahn.
Think I might be okay. I don't know how loud I'll be with this thing. I've been known to have a loud voice. I'm going to try to keep this moving. But I'm here, Jim Keim, children in Bluebell Elementary School. I had a meeting last Friday, partnership meeting. Our message to our staff was communication, transparency, 24-hour contact. Get back to people when they call you. Get back to people when they have an issue. I was notified yesterday morning driving home about the incident last week at the school. I'm directly affected by it because that person is in my daughter's class. We, in that classroom, parents were never told about what happened. So my daughter's in the class with the issue, and somebody decided they should be the parent and not tell the parents in the classroom. I don't care about the school bus. I don't care about the other stuff. I care about my daughter being in her class with someone that everybody knew something was going on with. Pretty sure everybody in here knows what was going on. This is the second time this year. We had the carbon monoxide issue at the school. You guys did not tell us. I emailed everyone. We went to the cops. We reached out to everybody. Again, zero communication back to us. Zero transparency. It's becoming a common theme with us parents. We're not finding out from you guys. And the issue last week really set me off because I got a child in a classroom that it took 3 hours to find out, even though you knew it, and remove the issue. So I just wanted to say, you guys got to start communicating with us because now it's affecting us personally. When I have a child in a classroom with somebody who brings a knife to school, that's an issue. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jen. All right, Amy Hughes. Amy Hughes Kelly.
Okay. So good evening. As budget season is upon us, I'd like to speak on the proposed cut as it relates to the school resource officer. I apologize as my schedule conflicts with the workshops, so I have to bring this to you here. This is not the first time or the second time the district has proposed cuts to the SRO that serves the Wissahickon High School, Middle School, and Lower Gwinnett Elementary School campuses. Now, I recall that grant money was secured to help offset the cost when we implemented the SRO over a decade ago. I know that additional monies have been received over the years to maintain the SRO since. I know the district shares the cost with Lower Gwinnett, which makes sense. They have jurisdiction and they have the benefit of using that officer when school is not in session. For the record and for Q&A follow-up, my questions are as follows. One, has the district continued to source and or receive additional state or federal funding for the SRO? And two, has the district explored any alternative funding options or sources to help offset the cost? While this may seem like an easy thing to cut on paper, since we're here again, or it may seem like an easy thing to threaten to cut in the hopes that others will step in and absorb these costs, I would ask you to please reconsider if that is really the right call. We are talking about a very small amount in the district's overall budget, and it may also seem like a good idea to explore outsourcing the function to try and save a few dollars. But I would ask you to weigh that against the benefits of continuing to use a Lower Gwinnett officer. No one is more vested in the community than those that serve this community. And the relationships that that officer is able to forge with our students in the building and then in the community should not be overlooked. I think the SRO does an amazing job. And I think that anyone who has been at the high school for a while can attest that they have been worth every single penny. If you're not seeing enough value in them to prioritize funds, maybe it's time to look at what they bring to the table from another angle. I don't know what data you're using to suggest this proposed cut makes sense and where the shortfalls should come from, but I'd ask you to reconsider given the burden that this has the potential to place on others. I've stood at this podium before asking you to find another way, and I'm standing here once again asking you to find another way. We've had an SRO in place for over a decade. If the district has not prioritized ensuring that you are able to retain them, then I think that's a problem worth solving. Funding is never a guarantee, but you've had more than 10 years to figure out how to budget for this expense. So I respectfully ask that you take this budget season as the opportunity to start planning now. We're already behind, and our kids' safety is not an area that we can afford to keep entertaining. Most certainly not for $70,000.
Thank you, Amy. Tanya Merrill?
Hi, my name is Tanya Merrill. I'm from the Wissahickon School District from Whitpain Township. I have 4 kids here, and 2 of which are at Bluebell. Last week, a very serious safety concern came to light. There was an altercation on the school bus that turned into a student bringing a knife to school. The knife was put away in the student's backpack. 3 hours later, we were told about the knife. Only families that with students in the morning bus were notified of any incident. No communication was shared with the rest of Bluebell Elementary School. The communication was shared was incomplete and misleading. No mention of a fight, no mention of the time that the weapon was in the school, no mention that it even made its way to a classroom. It was noted that the incident was quickly reported to by staff, which was false. The kids didn't report this till 3 hours later. The email that went home to parents deceitfully illustrated a young child made a show and tell mistake. This was no mistake. It was a purposeful act. Could have been very, very bad. I reached out to district leadership to request a full and honest update with an action plan sent home to all families. After 24 hours, I received no response. Parents deserve to be informed when the student safety is at risk. There's an ongoing trend of sweeping these details under the rug, and that needs to stop. After being ignored, I felt obligated to tell the community the truth about what happened on social media. Since then, many parents have reached out to me with their stories of security issues gone ignored. I struggle to understand why, when we know that students are struggling, bus privileges are kept, bags go unchecked. When there was no action plan. There was an action plan, it just wasn't followed. Bluebell parents received no emails about any reports of threats to multiple reports of threats that occur, and we don't even know it. Why is Bluebell security not a priority? Why is school security a proposed budget cut for the next year when we already are short on security resources? Is this a situation is this why the situation was downplayed? Because we want to just skirt this under the rug? It gives the illusion that our children are safe and additional security is unnecessary. Is this a plan for Dr. Crisfield to cut security budget on his way out, absolving Dr. Dewan of any wrongdoing? Their offices are safe and secure, tucked away here at Central Office, while our kids are on the front line. I would like to hear a commitment to accountability from each board member that security will be taken seriously, that communication with parents will not be spun to minimize, and that action plans will be created and followed for students that are with threatening harm, and that security budget cuts are off the table.
Thank you, Tanya. Anyone online?
We have no hands raised online.
Sky, Wethold, I'm sorry, Wentold, I'm sorry.
Guy Wenhold. I'm a Bluebell mom, and I have the honor of being with Tanya and volunteering and spending a lot of time at the school. I'm also a neighbor to the school, so I'm privy to a lot of the construction going on and things that happen as I'm there frequently. So to start, there is a lack of communication. None of the parents know what the chain of command is when it comes to communication. Who is writing emails, who is signing off on them, who is okaying them when we receive them. because information has constantly been cut out of various serious things. Our kids have been exposed to tarring of the roof and nobody was told. Kids were coming home sick with migraines. My son developed asthma from it. And then carbon monoxide leaks were occurring. And we were not told. It took 3 emails from our principal to finally find out that it was carbon monoxide. Myself and other women went to the community to find out before these emails came out, because our kids were coming home with stomach aches and teachers were reporting that they were getting sick. Children were throwing up, more so than a simple norovirus. And we were all very concerned. And nobody told us. When I asked what the smell was at the school that people were smelling, we were told it was gas. We later found out, yes, it was gas. Carbon monoxide is odorless, but the gas was leaking carbon into the school because the contractors who were hired were using tools that they weren't supposed to be using. The principal told me that it was not the first time that this has happened, that these contractors were told they were not allowed to use these tools around children, especially in an occupied space. This goes against OSHA. It's one of the first things you learn if you're a contractor. You're not to use tools in an occupied space that are powered by gas, especially around children. But yet it took 3 emails for us to be told that our kids were exposed to carbon monoxide. So when my friends were asking me if my kid was sick along with their kids, and if they were coming home with stomach aches and then feeling better and then going back to school and getting stomach aches and headaches again, I had to report to them that's because they were exposed to poisonous gas. And nobody told us, and nobody took any responsibility for it. And then this week, we find out that our children were around a student with a knife. We are a school with emotional support students, and I think that's wonderful. There's a lot of mental health issues going on with our kids right now, but they're not being addressed properly. And now our kids are at risk. So I ask, when does the school step in and actually help these kids and stop our kids from potentially becoming victims to them? And it's not just the emotional support kids. I don't want to put blame on them or their parents. There's tons of kids who are coming in with issues that we're not being told about. The problems that Tanya's addressing and I'm addressing are just the things we found out about because we were privy to them being at the school at the time. So I wonder how many more incidents are happening that we are not made aware of. So I ask, who is overseeing these things? And when we are writing to you guys, who's actually reading them? I had called Chris Field's office. I had sent emails to the school board about the tar, the carbon monoxide, but nobody responded. So when do we get a response? After a child is seriously and gravely injured, will you say you did everything you could when we've all told you that we are not being
Thank you, Sky. Rob Walker?
Rob Walker with Payne Township, 2 children, one in 9th grade and one in 6th grade. I'll tell you a little story. It's a good story, and then I'll relate it back to the chiller if you just have a little patience with me. Our backyard backs up right to Bluebell Elementary. Through the construction and oftentimes the dumpsters not being shut, a lot of trash would come into the woods, which my wife would complain about. Robbie, the 9th grader, decided one day to go out with the trash bag and start filling it, filled it up with bottles and construction debris, papers, everything that was kind of happening because of construction. That was one week. The next weekend, he did the exact same thing. Then he came into the kitchen and he told my wife and I, he remembers when he was a Bluebell student and the sitting area out there used to be maintained. And it was great because oftentimes they would take the children out there to have either a nature walk, class or something, even just reading on the benches. And he said, it's obvious that they don't do that anymore. He said, Dad, would it be okay if you and I went out there and cleaned it up and we got some mulch and made it so that it's acceptable for the teachers to bring the students back out there? Thought it was a great idea. So the following weekend, bought 12 bags of mulch, went out there, took the branches that had fallen, made a natural border, and cleaned it up nice enough for people to go out there and obviously either walk or have class. Just recently, we received a full packet of cards and letters from the 2nd and 3rd graders at Bluebell Elementary, and even some of the teachers thanking us for what we did. One in particular stood out. It was a young man who included a picture of himself sitting on the bench. And he let us know that he struggles with school and sometimes he even struggles with his environment, and that the woods provided a place for him to clear his mind and to think peaceful thoughts. That's the win. And I don't say that to self-promote my son. He wants no recognition for this whatsoever. The cards were enough. I say it because what Robbie did was the right thing. He did unto others what had been done for him and that he once done to him. It's the golden rule. And that's what we should be doing when we're talking about chillers or communication or TAR or whatever might be affecting the families. What we ask, you as the board, you are the moral compass that starts the school district. And we ask for you to do the right thing, not what's proper for an ordinance. I know that's, and I know you have to follow it. And you have a big ask in front of you with regards to the chillers, with regards to the middle school and the taxpayers who are affected by the noise and the students who are affected by it when they're on the fields of play right next to them. It does affect them. Sixth grader, my sixth grader tells me. So please just do the right thing.
Thank you, Rob. Carmina?
So last Friday, we honored Mrs. Helen Moore. She was the first teacher and the last principal of the segregated school in Penland from 1925 to 1955. In all three municipalities, Lower Gwinnett had a segregated school where all Black children only went to that school for 30 years. And over that 30 years, each Black Penland child left proficient in English and math. Fast forward 70 years later, since the school has closed, the little Black children in Penland that go to Bluebell have a 25% proficiency rate in math and have a 31% proficiency rate in reading. Blacks make up 9% of the school district population, but they're overrepresented in discipline. They're underrepresented in the gifted program. Their parents don't have an advocate to navigate the system for them. I sit here tonight just heartbroken because we don't have progress in the school district. And it's not things of transparency, communication, the board not listening to the community is not just with this iteration of the board. I've been here since 5th grade. My mom was an advocate. The board was resistant then, and you're resistant now. Something has to shift. Black children are being harmed. Earlier today, I received a phone call from a parent at Bluebell. Her child had been restrained 4 times, her kindergartner, and she just received the incident report today, only because I encouraged her to indicate to the administrator that she should contact the Pennsylvania Department of Education because there is no civil rights division in the Department of Education. So when you make a vote to get rid of policy 903 for this school district, you eliminate the most marginalized group of students in this district to have a community group that has a stakeholder investment in the Black children that come in this district. So all the word salad that happened tonight is just word salad. The PSBA is on a mission to limit public comment from people, period. I'm going to ask how much it costs to become a member of that organization. I'm going to ask all the questions I asked in my first comment, but understand this. And you as a board, you oversee that man. You oversee that superintendent. He's the supervisor of the principals. There's problems in each school and he's the supervisor. And you're his.
Thank you, Carmina. Anyone still online? Not online?
There are no hands raised. Okay.
All right, Alan DeCecco. Oh, actually, Alan, you know what? I had you marked down for second, but you actually already went the first. Never mind. I think, Jim, did you have a comment still? Jim Chiquette, do you have a second public comment period? You. Okay, you had. Thank you. I'm sorry, you had both checked. That's why I just want to double check. All right, thank you. And if we have nobody online, then we will. Oh, I'm sorry. I see one over there. Amy Ross.
Hi, I'm Amy Ross. I'm here from Bluebell. I'm also here to talk about the recent violence or threat of violence in our school district and the lack of transparency. So what you've heard already tonight is about the knife that was brought to school, but that's not the beginning of the story. I have two children in the school, 6 and 9. They're on the bus. They're in the same classroom. There was a gun threat 2 months ago with the same child. It was an incident on the bus, in the afternoon bus, where there was a scuffle. I don't know. It's, he said, she said with the children. But at the end, the child threatened to bring in a gun the next day and shoot them all. There was police involved. There was no communication to the broader school district. So I don't even know if everyone is aware of this. So this is the first that this room is hearing of it. We were told, I was told specifically that the way this was being handled is the child no longer be allowed on the bus. And then now, 2 months later, this same child who has been back allowed on the bus brought a knife to school. And I was not told immediately. My children honestly didn't even know. But now I'm getting all my information from 6 and 9-year-olds instead of the school and the administrators. So my concern is this was a known threat. Now it is a second incident of potential violence. What are we doing about it? And the emails from the school district only to the people on the bus are, we have policies, we're handling it, and that's it. I don't know what's being done. And my child is now having nightmares that his father is being shot on the bus and killed. My children shouldn't be afraid to ride the bus. They shouldn't be afraid to go to school. I understand that there are children with special needs and special behavioral needs, but all I'm asking for is some sort of confidence builder. Maybe this child isn't allowed on the bus. Maybe we look in the backpacks. Maybe there's an aide, with the child. There are different things that we can do to support the child, but also provide more safety for the children. And that should be the minimum standard. Secondarily, the transparency, because again, this is a second incident. What will the third be? Why do we have to have a second incident when the first was so severe? So that's all I'm here to say. Transparency and safety, honestly.
Thank you, Amy.
There are no hands raised online.
We'll close our second comment period. And we'll move on now to board comments. And Jim, I did have a couple questions for you. One, I did want to talk about the incident at Bluebell. I know certain things cannot be disclosed, but can you go over a little bit about the notification process so the board understands more about how the district notifies parents when there is an incident?
Yeah, so in this case, the incident happened on the bus, and I'll need to research the timing of when the communication came out. I know I heard comments tonight, and I did hear people on the need for a wider range, more people in the school. I think that's a fair point. That communication went to the student or the families of the student on the bus because it was a bus incident. Fair point taken that it extended past into the school day. And I think that all I can say is I think that I've heard you, and I think it's a fair point. I think it's something we can learn from. Typically, one of the problems we have, and this is not just to this school, but others as well, is that families very much want to know what happened in terms of consequences, and because that's a nice way to get a sense that it's not going to happen again. We can, until we're blue in the face, tell you all of our plan for it not happen again, but that doesn't provide enough level of comfort because from what I understand, you would like to know what happens when any student, not this instance, let's take it away from this instance, let's just talk about broadly. It would be nice to know what happens because then that's another layer of comfort. We can only talk to you in that example, in hypotheticals, because we are constrained by federal law to talk about what happened to a specific student. So again, moving it away from this incident, because I don't really want to, if we speak too much about this incident, we are going to narrow it down to a student, and then that student's rights are going to be violated. Let's talk broadly, the issues that you brought up tonight, which are fair. We can say, well, if X happens, then the consequences could be these, this, that, or that. We can say that in instances of a fight, these things happen. But we can't say what happened to Jimmy when Jimmy got into a fight or when Jimmy did something that violated the student code of conduct. And I know that's frustrating. It's frustrating for us to not be able to say it because I know that's what you want to hear. But school administrators don't have that leeway to tell you. It's frustrating for us too. What we can do is be, I say, broader and faster. I like the comments about, speed. There's a million things going on during a school day, and maybe what needs to be done is displace some of those other things so that this be prioritized. We have to, and what we need to do though, is we need to be sure. Correct. Correct. I understand that, and I don't blame you.
Let's go back to Jim. Jim, can you continue, please?
Right. So, broadly speaking, to answer your question, the communications are sent out as fast as we can be faster, to the people who have a need to know, could be broader. I don't disagree with any of those. And we try to keep the board as updated as possible as well. What happens in 2025 is things move way faster than they used to due to social media. So we need to maybe change how we prioritize our communication speed, initiating it, because it's clearly not meeting needs.
So I think what we need to do is I think you should have a discussion with the principal about the timing of communication. As a parent myself, I know that I would want to know right away if something like that occurred. I wouldn't want to wait a couple days to find out. Even if it's with limited information, at least bringing parents up to speed as to where we are at that point, and that further information will follow once it's available. But I think we should be sharing out information as soon as we have it to the parents. Again, as a parent, I would want to know right away.
No, disagree.
Okay, so let's have that conversation then. Okay. All right, and then I also wanted to ask about, well, actually, do anybody else have comments or questions on that particular issue? Keep going, okay.
I just have one thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Deanne.
The board doesn't always know what happens in the schools either. I found out, I'm not on, when you emailed me is when I found out. And so I'm just saying, please stop, this is not a dialogue. I'm just saying that I don't always know either. So, it's not my job to know every single incident that goes on. I agree with Amy of directing Jim to meet with the principals to come up with a uniform way to respond to this. I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay, and then I also wanted to ask, so I did want to share a comment regarding the SRO, about the SRO. In terms of our plans for the SRO, I did want to let the community know that we are exploring options. I've spoken with the local townships about looking at options for contributing towards the funding to continue with the SRO. Jim's had some conversations as well. So we are exploring those other options. So at this point, we are still exploring that issue with the SRO and the funding. And I
think I had one other thing I wanted to ask. Oh, I wanted to ask Jim with regard to the holidays. I know we get a lot of requests for different holidays to be added to our calendar. And I was wondering if we couldn't look, they've mentioned, different community members mentioned Upper Dublin, North Penn. If we could look at districts that have a similar makeup and diversity as we have here in our district and take a look at what holidays they have on their calendar. So that maybe going into, I know next year's calendar is already prepared, but going into the following year, if we can make sure we're as inclusive as possible in our holidays to make sure every member of our community is represented in some way with regard to holidays.
And then also somehow we could use the minute versus days, like new law change to maybe have an extra day that it wouldn't affect us going later in June. And I did want to say the student, is it Case?
Case, yeah.
You made an excellent point. You know, these school calendars years and years and years ago were built around Christian holidays. You're right. And that has not really, it's been really slow to change, and it's changed, and that's not really representative of our community anymore. And so, you know, I think we have to really take a look at including some of the other holidays. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Were there any other comments or questions this evening? All right, then, yeah, go ahead.
I'll be very brief. I just want to acknowledge everybody who's come out. You've been heard. We do get a lot of emails. It's very hard to respond to all the emails. And in fact, many times we're instructed not to respond to emails. So it's because it's taken out of context and only parts of our emails are then distributed, which has happened multiple times. So for our own protection, we've been asked not to respond. For that, I'm sorry, but I am always honest, and I'm always honest in these meetings. And I hope I continue to do that. And your students are always the first person in my mind, as one of mine is here every other session. Thank you for coming out.
All right, any other comments this evening? All right, then we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.